once more, head on back over to our casters.
Thanks so much, Zoe. Yep, neighbors at the border, but enemies when it comes to Overwatch. Toronto versus Boston, this is going to be a good match and an important one when it comes to their chances for the Kickoff Clash qualifiers. Toronto, I think, tied for 8th place. Boston sitting at 10th. So this win will be an important shot for both these teams to hopefully qualify.
Yeah, Boston started their entire season, Lemon, with trepidatious elation, with a 3-2 win over Vancouver Titans, who we didn't know were kind of having a bit of a languishing roster at the moment at the time. So Boston sort of squeaked away that win, but since then, it's not been a glorious run for the Uprising. But the same could be said yesterday of the Toronto Defiant. This is kind of like a kissing the boo-boos better kind of match for them. Not only do they want to make sure that they get into the Kickoff Clash, but also they need to nurse a bruised ego after being thoroughly dominated by the Dallas Fuel.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with the Toronto Defiant, the where is finale. I know we were all screaming that because of just how pleasantly surprised, and I think that's a bright spot on the team. But in his stead is Aldo, that similar hero pool of sporting the Tracer. But against the Dallas Fuel, they faced a composition maybe they haven't scrimmed a lot against with the Zarya. And I think Aldo just really struggled to have that consistent damage when everything he wanted to kill was getting bubbled by Hanbin. And now matched with Aldo is someone who also hasn't had a ton of play time, and that's Hotba, who's been sporting the Zarya. So I'm wondering if Toronto are trying to incorporate more of the Zarya Reaper type of approach, similar to the Dallas Fuel and other teams, to just prove that they can be flexible in the meta.
Yes, mean stat time. Hotba has played 3 maps and has won 0 maps this season. It's not been a glorious showing from, I believe, Hotba, who's in his 5th season of Overwatch League now. I think he's played in all 5. Can't remember if he was present during the last one. Could have had a break during season number 4. Maybe they played for Guangzhou. Not entirely sure. On the other side, real bright spots, Charong and Twilight. Charong has really impressed us with the Lucio play, and of course Hisu. We knew that Hisu was a beast, and they have continued to prove themselves very fearsome on the battlefield. On the other side, we have the Boston Uprising. And when I look at this, Lemon, I'm printing out fresh milk cartons with a sign on it that says, missing 1 superstar tier DPS, 1 prodigal son, 1 world champion. Where is Striker?
Where's Finale? Where's Striker? But it's important for teams to incorporate their bench lineup. You're paying them for a reason, and you don't want them to just be specialists. Victoria has really only played, what, 1 or 2 maps, and it's usually Circuit Royale as their Widow specialist. But I know a lot of other teams, like including, was it the Shock, who have Ons, who is not just their Widow specialist, but is now playing the Soldier. So I'm thinking this could be the same scenario for Boston, who want to have their, their Widow expert become more involved with the team and maybe give Striker a break, especially, the times that we're in now. If someone goes sick, you need someone to step up, and Victoria does that. I mean, Boston are the triple threat team who have 3 tanks, 3 DPS, and 3 supports.
Speaking of someone being sick, MCD was in last week as Crimson had a little bit of a hospital scare, but all of us here at Overwatch League are very happy to see your swift recovery, Crimson. Thank you very much for returning to us, as you have been a bit of a premiere honor in the weeks where we have seen Boston playing. I think that Crimson definitely has shown himself to have a huge amount of value on that particular flex support. As we head over to our map set here, you can see that Lijiang Tower is where we are going to begin. And on this particular map, Boston Uprising, they have a tendency to bring out the Echo sometimes from Valentine, and that's fairly similar to what we just saw from the San Francisco Shock in their victory against the LA Gladiators. Sorry for the spoilers. Where sometimes Valentine actually gets pocketed by Faith on the Mercy, who makes rare appearances in our Overwatch 2 meta.
I want to say it's one of the only teams utilizing Mercy with the Echo, which I know was popular in contenders. When you have an Echo just pop off so much, you got to invest more stonks into that. But when I kind of get a hint on what compositions we may see, I look at the tank lines. Now, Hotba has been mostly playing Zarya, if not maybe Sigma on a Circuit Royale to block the LOS from Widows. Punk, on the other hand, in week 1, went from Diva to Doomfist to Winston. Punk really has played it all when he started as a Diva main back in contenders. Now, we've seen very little of Zarya Punk. Punk has actually taken more of the Winston role, as Marvel usually plays in as the Doomfist. So different looks from both sides as we get an initial Symmetra TP from Valentine and a swap back to Reaper.
There's a Hotba Winston. I am officially weirded out. This is truly quirky now from Toronto Defiant, who maybe Muse is ill. I'm not sure. Either way, Hopper's dead. He's feeling the illest right now, and Boston Uprising aren't going to be administering any medicine for that one, son.
For now, Boston playing things slow. Point hasn't been unlocked yet. You can chill in the middle of the map. Toronto over on White Room side. That's a massive bio from Crimzo. Chorong and Hisu dangerously low. Victoria wanted the right click. Still an execution comes through from Boston, who start equalizing those numbers, taking up the space on the point. Punk, I think maybe some issues building up energy, but man, instantly 40. As you always want to bubble Valentine either on the TP flanks or as he goes forward. And Punk and Valentine wanting to trade out the frontline pressure as Boston continue to claim kills and claim the point.
For those of you who like consuming analytical content around Overwatch Esports, highly recommend Johnny reinforced Larson's video on how this Zarya Reaper composition works and how Reaper kind of becomes a faux dive tank when equipped with the bubbles from the Zarya. Very informative and easy to digest. Thanks for that one, Johnny. I know why you get paid as an analyst now. Toronto Defiant on the back foot at the moment, Lemon, but Hisu has been able to do a good amount of damage, getting very close towards that tactical visor, but Victoria is still outpacing this.
Although drawing attention by starting to capture the point, Victoria's gonna press up to contest, although uses the deflect, now jumps back towards the team. Boston now head towards the bridge with the tactical visor, instantly 2 kills for Victoria and friends, and Twilight misses the sleep, and that will cost him his life. Blood spills, and Boston take 2 fights in a row.
Toronto Defiant here seem to be having a little bit of trouble trying to make any effective engagements against the Zarya Reaper. They can't find a way to negotiate themselves onto Crimzo. Maybe here we need to see Toronto Defiant have, although, be less of a point presence and more of an assassination force, forcing out those bubbles from Punk onto Crimzo so it can't be given to Valentine. That's a miss on Manado. Hopper surely dies here.
But Hisu doesn't miss these. I don't think he can. It's the tactical visor with the nano combined from Twilight. Hisu can be anti-dated, but he can't be stopped. He even takes shelter in Dojo. What a smart player Hisu is. And an important play that had to be made because that was 82% of Boston and now a flip for Toronto.
And Toronto, for them, that was a vaguely cheap fight as well. Only the nano visor being invested means that now they can try and rely on things like Beat Blade to try and win fights, or Hopper being able to knock people into the pit using that Primal Rage. You can see that it was taking some risky engagements there just to be able to squeeze the juice out of some additional ult charge here. However, a bubble Death Blossom could be bad. Look at this, straight away the bubble and the boot. Perfect.
Great poop and finish. Nothing Valentine can do about that. Punk, another win condition is the Graviton, but Chorong built up to the Sound Barrier before Boston could really pull the trigger on that. Now Toronto, I mean, they can save their ultimates, but they invest the Sound Barrier in response to Punk's grab, which I don't even see it on my screen. And Punk eliminates himself. He gives Toronto a favor. Now Toronto just has to finish what they start, including even investing a Primal Rage. And Boston are down for the count.
All right, so just throwing a grab to Botswana. No dramas, Punk, no dramas. I don't think that was a well-considered play right there, but hey, Boston Uprising have a little bit more room to work with at least. They still have at least 40% before Toronto Defiant can steal this round away from them. This is very aggressive, and there's a nano blade.
Oh, the bubble was a little early on Victoria, but Aldo still gets those. Still an investment from Toronto. The 1 kill, all is enough. The sleep onto Aldo. This could be a returning pick for Boston. This could equalize, but a good bubble, like you said, from Hoppa keeps him safe. Aldo dives into the backline. A bubble given to Crimzo, but Crimzo and Faith are super low. Boston decide to invest. The nano is given to Punk. Probably was high energy, but all Toronto had to do was just walk away and ignore their problems.
But Toronto now, they have multiple problems. It's an engagement from Victoria for this final battle. Sure, overtime might be triggered here, Lemon, but Hisu can't get anything done as they run as best they can from the attack visor and can't escape.
This is already a close round 1. You thought, I mean, it's been a treat of matches today. You got a game 5 now at 99-99. Boston, if they get this stagger onto Aldo, that's going to be painful for Toronto, but Victoria a little bit too greedy, and Twilight is down. Toronto are going to have limited heals unless Chorong can get the Sound Barrier in time. Touch successful by Aldo. Hoppa ready to jump in. He's close to Primal. He can keep this wick burning for a while as Punk wants to build up towards the Graviton Surge. Hoppa slept, was this close to booping Crimzo off the map. As we look back towards the point, Hisu has been nanoed and he received the Sound Barrier, doing his best impression of Kevster as he can. The Death Blossom from Valentine, and through, even with the help of the Soundbeer and the Graviton to lock all the targets down for him. 99 to 99, we have a 4 versus 2 in favor of Boston, and it's just a matter of time before the round goes their way.
Not entirely sure what happened with Punk's grab there again. Might have been a second zoning grab, or maybe it was just a solo one-to-one person who Valentine managed to clear up. But that was a great understanding of the battle zone there from Boston Uprising. Despite Toronto Defiant having 4 active ultimates at one moment, the Nano, I believe, was up. They had a Pulse Bomb out, they have the Primal up, and the Sound Barrier used as well. Everyone huddled into a tight area, and that meant that Valentine could do a huge amount of damage using that Death Blossom, and I think that it shredded through the Winston shield of Hotba because multiple people were on the outside of it, so they all kind of had their own damage that they take from the Death Blossom addressed onto that. Yeah. It is I think we have 0 Gravitons hit thus far from Punk, but don't worry, he's a supportive Zarya.
I mean, he still does a ton of damage, you know, high energy. He was a recipient of 1 nano. He's been bubbling Valentine pretty well. Sometimes a little early, but better early than never, or too late, rather. But I'm a glass half full type of person, and Dorado dive in, wraithing out, preserving their life. Boston hoping to take control of the middle of the map. Bubble, expended bubble. Punk always wants to keep 1 for emergency situations. Hotba is now going to match Punk on that Zarya. Now the point is unlocked. Boston getting their back shoved against the wall. Crimzo, I mean, punishes Aldo. And Boston's backlap is just so much stronger. 90 energy for Punk as Boston rotate to the point.
Alright, so we've got the dregs of a fight going on here, Lemon. One of the things that really annoyed me yesterday about Toronto Defiant versus Dallas Fuel is that they seem to have a really bad idea, despite continuing to play this comp, about how to do a TP bubble engage. They sort of just let Aldo TP in, give him a bubble, and then everyone watches from afar, like, go Aldo, win the fight, do it for us. And it keeps happening. You need to go with him. He's not a solo performer.
There's some kind of micro issue happening because there's probably a lot of burst that's happening to Aldo that he can't seem to wraith in time because he is within the wraith range of his team, but he just isn't reacting in time. So Boston now are taking consecutive fights, and now in this ult phase, Boston have a big advantage.
Or, like, at least send in a Bardic Grenade with him so that he's getting, like, 50% more self-healing from the shots that he allegedly does hit. I say allegedly because he's currently on 35% ult charge, so I don't know, Lemon. The jury's out on the accuracy right now.
Oh, you're definitely getting into a ditch tomorrow. The Glass fans now Toronto, and although he still TPs, the grab to stop Valentine's blade. Did they invest the nano? I think, yeah, they did. So you kill 2 ultimates with 1 grab. We're seeing value. But for now, Punk and friends warding away Toronto.
Oh, not the Ajax.
Oh,
no
the
way.
Ajax, dude. Oh, the sound barrier is killed from Chirog. Toronto are in shambles.
Chirong does not stare down that tank rise. Okay, you know what will fix this? A sound barrier with a hard peak. Oh my goodness, we're feeling real gold today, aren't we, boys? Toronto Defiant, things are happening, and they're not happening well. Boston Uprising looking dominant here. They have a grab for this final fight, Lemon. Stick that onto Twilight and Chirong and feast.
He used to have to go big with the tactical visor. I wonder if he's on the high ground. The grab is thrown right at the choke to stop the supports from moving. Meanwhile, Aldo has traveled to the point. Chirong is there. Toronto are split. Hisu has a tactical visor. I'm not seeing any kills though, and Toronto are desperate for them. Boston are out of ultimates though. That's the only silver lining if you're from Canada. And Punk is down. Energy reset. Hotba, he's alive, and he is well, but not for now. Trades back and forth. You have a 3-on-3 as Toronto get the flip at a crucial moment as Boston head away.
Crimzo and Victoria are still alive though, and that means this nano could be used rather soon, even for a nano visor. Hisu's wrapped around the back, but point might get flipped here. Back to overtime. Who's going to touch from a Toronto Defiant? Do they have anyone in rage? Indeed, it'll be Chirong who's responsible for this. And oh, those been booked off. No way. No way! No way! What?
Yikes! Yikes!
Oh, yikes, Quirky. Unbelievable.
Yup. That is a boop. That's why you never rotate, almost never rotate coast side when it comes to night market, because Lucio's look good in the kill feed. They will boop you off. To be fair, Boston Toronto also had a Reaper. Aldo was there too, and was trying to dodge the boop, and then didn't really follow up for the touch. So, yeah.
Yeah, Lemon, I think that's exactly the tone that we need. 1-0 to Boston Uprising. As we head into our break, this is allegedly Toronto Defiant versus Boston Uprising. See you on the other side.
Welcome back, everyone. Behold. Go on.
This drop here from Although Lemon is Toronto in the power rankings after this weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, there was definitely someone there with Aldo, you know, getting booped though, rotating co-side. I mean, there's no quicker way than where Aldo went, but not seeming to be the case. We even had a canceled sound barrier. So there's been some whiffs all around, including 0 kills from Punk when it comes to Graviton Surges. But you know, new map, new me, new teams, right?
No new players though. Same rosters, Lemon. Striker missing, but hey, Boston Uprising are winning, so in the end, it's fine. On the other side, Hopper and Aldo remain as we head into map number 2, Eichenwald. So we can assume that this will not be a Winston Tracer angle, but a little bit more of the Reaper Zarya, which I think might be a critical case of Dallas Fuel good, do what Dallas Fuel do.
Incorporating more Zarya to the point where Hoppa's even matching it. Both teams did win Eichenwald before. Boston even winning this against the Gladiators, holding them at B. Now when it comes to Toronto on Eichenwald, they also won this against Mystery Team. That I will tell you guys about later. Oh, Paris when they 3-0'd them, of course. I think it happened so quickly that I just like forgot it happened. But yeah, both teams finding success on Eichenwald.
Toronto Defiant going to be hoping to make this one a little bit less painful. Boston Uprising, I think it's fair to say that Punk has been the superior bubbler. At least when it comes to supporting Valentine as well, it definitely feels like Punk is actually moving with Valentine at the moment. Toronto Defiant, their flowchart of organization for how to make these engagements work is severely balked. It is, we bubble the Reaper and then we watch, which is, there are a couple parts missing, Lemon, a couple parts missing.
Attackers incoming.
Oh, the nade setup? Nope, doesn't hit. But you know what hits? Hotba's grabs too, because he grabbed Valentine when he was nanoblading back on map 1, so finding value. Now, I'm glad that Boston have gone away from the Genji, because, you know, grab does suck for Genji players. Now the bubble being delivered to Hisu, made his way to the right side, is already wreathed back. Churro dangerously low, left at 1 HP, almost could have resulted in a first pick for the defense of Boston. Bubble's given now by Hotba when the players are not really in any danger, as Boston are playing more towards the point. Valentine approaches, Bubble now giving energy to Punk. Now that Hoppa's at 80 plus energy, this could be Toronto wanting to get more aggressive, but Hisu, a little too close to the sun, dies immediately, and Boston about to get the team way.
Although definitely going to be staggered here. Definitely should have been waiting around. Like, there's no way you get out of that with Reflect when you're up against a full charge Zarya like Punk. Right now, the Zarya differential when it comes to the damage is very much evident. Punk 30% ahead of Hopper, and Hisu hasn't been able to do anything so far. Look at this, 28% ult charge Lemon. Hisu has been playing the Sniper Reaper, and I'm afraid he's no good at that.
It's just tough for Reapers on Eichenwald to approach. Now Victoria has the tactical visor while Hoppa's bubble has been broken, and Toronto takes shelter and surprisingly don't lose anyone. The grab is first thrown from Punk, lapping Hoppa by about 15% to 20%, and enough energy accumulated along with the nano he received from Crimzo is enough to stop Toronto in their tracks towards the point.
That was a 3-ult fight for both teams, which is not great for Boston. They lost a huge amount of their playmaking potential without that nano. And now it means that they're just going to have to rely on Aldo with a non-nanoed blade to try and make a difference here. And Punk has been surviving these rounds, so still has a huge amount of energy to play with. And that's a huge danger for Aldo. Going up against Punk with that blade is scary, man.
Yeah, Boston don't want to hold the choke, but Aldo might have to hold this L. The sound barrier comes out from FaZe and completely counters, although the grab is thrown though from Hotba. The death blast from Valentine got the equal trade, 2-2. We're left on the point with a 3 versus 3. Toronto wanting to start that capture. Valentine playing at the end with the supports. Not having a main tank is a struggle. Valentine punishes Aldo and is slept for his efforts. So Toronto kind of struggling here without a tank to push forward with them.
100% of the players remaining hit by that Bardic Grenade, though, sends Crimzo and Faith scurrying, but it doesn't matter because Punk's returned to the fray once more. Fernando given over to Hisu, surely they can do something as they move into this zone area. Lemon, this should be point A.
Yeah, you forced a Wraith out of Valentine. You killed Crimzo super early on in that fight. You staggered out Victoria. Yep, that's a guaranteed cap for Toronto.
Interesting as well, Toronto Defiant playing this composition, and I believe we saw this earlier in the day from Outlaws when they were playing up against the London Spitfire. They believed that the combination of the Reaper and the Genji, providing they were alongside a Doomfist, was really good for trying to bully out a Reinhardt, and that's how they managed to bully London themselves on Eichenwald.
Isu was trying to bully Valentine there, might have even forced the Wraith out. And about this Zarya Reaper situation, it's about trying to distract for your Reaper to get in position. Victoria jumps down from the top rope just to get annihilated from a Death Blossom. The tack visor from Victoria yielding nothing. Might have even received the nano from Crimzo. You still have another win con if you're boxed in. It's about the Graviton from Punk. And you reset Hotba's energy, which is really big for the defense. Punk doesn't even need to invest the Graviton, but he might need some help, as it's only Faith and Victoria on the high ground. So yeah, Boston reset.
You know what? Called me an old standby of traditions, Lemon, but I'm not a particularly huge fan of the melee nanovisor. I think that one of the greatest attributes of the heavy pulse rifle, which Soldier 76 carries, is its ability to deliver damage over range using these things called bullets. And that should be considered by Boston Uprising for their next engagement.
But now Punk needs to build up all that energy back again if he hopes to get involved with the Graviton. He's saving for the next fight. Didn't want to make the mistake of throwing a grab in a fight that didn't seem winnable, but now is the moment. Hisu was wraithing into his team, and Punk slaps them back. And Boston take a fight win, an important one, to give themselves back the high ground advantage, but maybe not guaranteed, as Valentine has been found. The sound barrier used from Faith, as they weren't sure how guaranteed this was at the end. On is traded, although is low, and Punk will finish this where he started it.
I have no idea how Orvo stayed alive that long. Give enough time for Isu to respawn and come on back, and Hotba is at least going to be in a bit of a safer position now, as we're going to see that Toronto, they are running low on time once more, Lemon, but they are coming up on some resources, most namely the Graviton Surge from Hotba. Previously, this was used to shut down Blade and Genjis, but of course we haven't seen those from a Boston Uprising on Eichenwald. Instead, trying to keep Valentine in place might be a little bit less well considered, as Valentine TP's over, maybe preparing for a Death Blossom. Lovely job.
This is a solo one. Probably could have just left-clicked it, to be honest. And now you got a grab from Hotba. The sound barrier too. They've lost Twilight. Not giving up hope, as Valentine has received the nano. He's on a 1-on-3. He's on a journey, and he's claiming scalps left and right. Boston just approaching the cart. Hotba's next on the hit list. His energy is reset, and so is his mental, as Boston have forced Toronto to their final fight.
30 seconds remains. Twilight should be able to extricate themselves here with their life, as Strong's going to do the same. Hisu going to be the big playmaker. They're already slept with the Blossom. Oh no, Lemon. This is going to mean that Hisu's going to at least be able to enter this last fight from an unexpected angle, when maybe Boston have already used some resources. But will Toronto even be alive to receive the Hisu reinforcements?
Toronto are actually split in half. The supports are all the way back at the door. You see where Twilight is. He gives a nano to Hotba. He has the front line. Victoria dies to himself, question mark. And now you have a grab from Punk. This time it finds value as the dust settles. Toronto will keep the overtime wick burning and head towards point B. And I'm so surprised Boston could take advantage of the split push that Toronto had.
Faith is still alive in the back, so could potentially touch here. Is going to give it a good old college try, but ducks into that last area. And it's going to be point C where this is decided. Toronto Defiant pulling one out of the hat here, including a lovely charge from Hotba that intimidated Victoria, I believe, into trying to helix jump away, but unfortunately the old man's ankles could not take the explosive damage and simply fell over limply instead. Now Boston Uprising are stuffing themselves around this cart. Remember how much physical cover it provides here. It's really good to play against the anti-native Rihanna.
Wraith from Valentine, a disengage from Boston, free space from Toronto, where Hotba has the grab. Hisu with the Death Blossom. We haven't seen this combined in a while. Valentine's getting eager. He's pressing up. He's got the bubble. And that was enough to already get a kill for the defense. The grab is thrown from Hotba to get the trade, and they accomplish just that. And Toronto have leftover ultimates. If they want to carry this momentum to the end, they just don't want to overextend. They can't afford to lose anyone. Toronto have a blade and a Death Blossom, and it might be up to Hisu to teleport to the top left. That's kind of where Victoria or Valentine are hanging out. I think that's Victoria waiting for the tack visor, and he's going to be a threat if Toronto don't deal with that.
If it's going to be a cap, it's going to be an overtime lemon as Hopper leads the way once more. The tactical visor popped from Victoria, but they're up against so many shields here that it's basically inept. All it can do is get away that overhealth, and now you've got to worry about the duo of ults.
The blade comes out, but the sound barrier from Fate counters everything. It's still trade out with Crimzo, but Toronto are out of time and out of people. It's Hotba versus the world, and more like lukewarm Ba. It's not going to be enough. But Hisu had a great approach. He TP'd to the top left, but Victoria's reposition was just that much better. Getting away from Hisu was the win con from Boston. And there you have it. Not able to complete point C.
Boston Uprising, they didn't panic in that final fight as well. They were very well measured in how they responded to all of the stimuli Toronto Defiant sent their way, including a very good beat from Faith, which kept so many members of Boston Uprising alive and allowed them to go into far more risky positions in order to force Toronto Defiant into some disengagement angles that were very bad for being able to support Although.
Still a good push from Toronto, despite I feel like they lost so much time pushing the point, and that was due to Boston just playing so far back that at least Toronto had the, once they figured out, they rotated left and they kind of were helping Aldo close the gap between him and the other team. I mean, Reaper is a close range hero, and like you've even pointed out before, the range is just not there, and Aldo kept getting picked and Toronto kept losing people on the journey to the objective. But once they had their rotations right, there was a lot more potential, and it came down to what, like a 3 versus 3 on the point, so Toronto lost the bulk of their time there. And Boston just, even when Toronto was split on their point B push, Boston they hesitated. They couldn't really pick which 3-man group they wanted to go after.
Admittedly, yeah, Toronto Defiant, they did get a pretty good push there, especially considering how long they were held on first, and seeming like they were having a lot of issues with the early exchange of fire, with our Sniper Reaper going up against the defensive zone. Of course, it's only the Reinhardt to roll out and block that initial grenade. Both of our tanks are going to return to their native Zaryas. And you can see, look at Punk here. For those of you who are newer to Overwatch, this is how you play with the Zarya. Make sure you get down to about half health first before you bubble to try and bait in more fire from the enemy.
Valentine already TP'd in, and Victoria took so much poke, and Crimso's more focused on trying to keep the front line alive, so Victoria will help himself to a health pack. But Toronto playing back where kind of Boston was playing, as although it has this closer approach towards the mini pack, more to just kind of self-sustain. The bubble has been given. Hoppa is closer to 100 energy, and these right clicks are such deadly AoE damage. And Hoppa just keeps claiming kill after kill and getting closer to ground than Punk is.
And Toronto Defiant are doing a really good job here on the defense of just getting the continuum of play for the Reaper much better. They just give the bubble over onto Aldo, and then everyone W's forward with a speed push from Charong, just overwhelming the Boston Uprising with this tide of bodies and damage, which can't be kept up with when you're dealing with a single target healer like Anna, who has to continually choose who to prioritize with the healing that's being done.
Aldo just being hanging around in the mini pack to see if he can just climb into the back line while Boston don't notice the nano given to Punk, who must have accumulated enough energy to necessitate the extra damage, and he's in a corner by himself. It might be even LOS and Crimzo, but he's fine and he's well, and I can't say the same thing about the defense. Strong has to make a decision. Is it worth using the sound barrier? And it is. Hoppa still has the grab, but Boston are still hoping to get close. The grab is thrown at Valentine's face as he was racing away, and Punk is reset. Hisu is claimed, and Boston aren't making much of anything on this point.
Yeah, although has returned, both the DPS died, but remember, Hisu won't take long to get back at all. That soldier, he can pump those hams and get back in record time. Good sprinter. And now Boston Uprising, they have lost out on one of their power plays. What they still have is a Graviton Surge and a Visor of their own. Look at this, I think that Twilight's actually hiding behind them, looking for one of the Baboon Nanonades, and indeed, it is so effective.
Ooh, Victoria taking some damage from all those snuck up on him. No nano, but it is a visor. The sound barrier to help out. 5 more time for Victoria to get aggressive towards Toronto Defiant, to back away from the point, hoping to give up 1 or 2 ticks. Who's back here? Hisu has been discovered. This is not good. He better run. And he dips Victoria. Now Toronto have an off-angle chance. And this is where Hisu is demolishing the supports of Boston. Boston have lost Crimzo. They got a second tick, but that's it.
Oh, they could try and re-engage here, but look at Aldo. In the castle right now, looking for a Death Blossom. The same could be said of Valentine, but the bubble was good. The sleep was absorbed. Aldo round the back, attempting to clutch, but no one's here for the party, mate. It's a lonely child's 6th birthday. At least your mum came.
I don't know if she would want to get sick as well, but I appreciate it. Boston, I mean, that was kind of scrappy, I'm not going to lie. Victoria versus Hisu, they're going to make memes about that somewhere. But at least Boston got the point. They got a nano left over, but it's the threat of Hisu on the high ground with a nano that is scaring the heck out of me. And we're waiting to see the drop from Toronto. There's also an energy building phase for these Zaryas. Hakba heads for the floor. Aldo is ready on the platform for the engage, hoping to go unnoticed, to go into the back line. Valentine has gotten the bubble, and so has Hakba. Hakba's gotten nanoed. He heads towards Crypto, gets slept, and he's woken up. And that might be a regretful moment for Punk, who hopes to protect Valentine. He raced away, trapped again by the crowd from Hakba, as Toronto are just cleaning up the rest of the remnants of Boston Uprising.
Yeah, but think about how much Toronto Defiant were demanded to use there. The nano to save Hotba, Hotba grabbing to try and turn that around, and having to be given the sound barrier as well to deal with a nano on Valentine. And that was with Toronto Defiant playing that from the advanced position of the high ground anyway. They should have had an inherent advantage there, Lemon. And yet Boston Uprising come out on top economically. They're setting themselves up for a good next 2 minutes.
Oh, tactical visor from Hisu. And he's on the floor. He's in the back line. Boston Uprising checking into their room on the high ground, staying safe until they get Victoria back.
Yeah, Boston Uprising now going to have a little bit of trouble moving out of these chokes. We saw what Victoria was trying to take shelter from the incoming damage, but it also meant that they were LOSing Crimzo on that Ana. For now, Punk going to claim some space, Hopper up high, and Victoria is going to ward away Hisu for but a moment. But think about how fruitfully one of these body grenades could be deployed from Twilight's up high position.
Oh, hunting down Hisu. Victoria dipping at that moment, hoping to get on the high ground with his tactical visor. I think Valentine's gonna join there, but he's about to race down below. Got chunked down so early. Valentine receives the nano. Thought he was, I guess he's close enough to all the action. Valentine going off. Wish he got some kills though. Punk throws the grab, and Dorado are just barely living through this. Now they nano Hotba, who ropes the clap back against Boston as Victoria is escaping with the visor after killing Chorong. And it's ult after ult. It's so scrappy. You're only left with 3 of the defense, and Toronto 2 of them, and they didn't want to risk keep fighting.
Unbelievably messy right there. Punk choosing to grab when everyone was actually on a lower plane of verticality, even where the grab was. That's a huge engagement from Hopper.
Now that is a good grab. Hotba guaranteeing those 2 kills. Boston hoping to escape, or at least die as quickly as possible to get themselves as much time as possible. 20 seconds and last fight for Boston.
Oh, I love this. The confidence from Toronto Defiant to just try and Death Blossom their way onto those who are respawning. Welcome to the party, baby! Although picks up a bunch.
Toronto just pre-engaging into the spawn room doors, and now Boston can't even touch. So Toronto will be taking Eichenwald and evening up the series 1-1.
All right, this one's turning competitive, Lemon. Boston Uprising, unable to break their way through the high ground hold of the Toronto Defiant. Despite some economic woes at the beginning of Eichenwald's second, Toronto Defiant definitely made a really good job of ensuring that there was no free space that Crimzo could occupy, and ensuring that every rotation which was made by Boston Uprising was thoroughly punished, so that they had to generate and consume resources in order to simply move into the battle, and then they weren't available when Hopper got up in their faces with the nano so often. Big evolution from the side of Toronto Defiant, but it still remains to be seen if they'll be able to keep it up in the rest of this series. We'll see it after this break. from the shadows. And the top rope, it's Luchador Reaper. Get the Kickoff Clash's legendary skin on sale now through June 25th for only 200 League tokens. And of course you can get League tokens by purchasing them in-game or by watching right here on YouTube Gaming. You can be earning tokens simply by linking your account. I'm sure you guys have all seen the messages and spammed the drops, but I know if anything, I'm going to be enjoying that. I'm going to be enjoying that skin. The crepe check is solid, Lemon. I like those shoes.
Well, at least if you're going to int off the map, zoning Death Blossom, you can look good doing it. Sometimes aesthetics is all that matters. But we have a tie series 1-1 as we will go to Dorado in our next map. And we have a few substitutions and an interesting one. It's Al will be coming in for Punk. And he has only played one map, and it was on Gibraltar against the Gladiators, which they did lose. Sorry, It's Al. And MCD will be subbing in for Crimson.
You and I have a little bit of history casting Itzal Lemon over in North American Contenders in 2021. Itzal was the player who made North America dive again, bringing in a Winston into a meta of double shields and Reinhardts of yore. But now, of course, all of those comps are unavailable, a product of the past. There are no more two shields, there is only the one gorilla who will reign over them all, and Itzal is looking to try and pick up their first win in Overwatch League here against the Toronto Defiant as we head over to Dorado.
I'm expecting some Winston. And like I've already said about Boston, they got the triple threat, 3 tanks, 3 DPS, 3 supports. Now, through time, we're seeing Boston kind of identify what roles each of those will be playing. Punk has been kind of this ultimate flex of Zarya, Sigma, D.Va, really has played it all. Even Winston was what kind of helped them bolster on week 1. Now Marvel has been taking the Doomfist duties, and it kind of left Itzal with what is Itzal filling on this team. And we knew how much of a difference Itzal made to Uprising Academy back in Contenders, finally gave them one of the first wins they had in a while. So I'm personally very excited to see Itzal, but I haven't seen him in a solo tank meta, so we'll see how things go. And especially now that MCD's back in, they've worked together on that one map that Itzal did play, so synergy already there.
On the other side, Lemon, for Toronto Defiant as we head over to Dorado, what I wouldn't give to have been a fly on the wall during this week's scrims. I want to know what happened in this team that they decided that the Winston, which is so often relied upon by top teams like Gladiators and Shock, was left by the wayside to go for the more Dallas Fuel-centric approach. And I think if there's one thing that has proven true over the course of competitive Overwatch where Coach Rush has been involved, is that you don't copy Coach Rush's strats, because Coach Rush's strats are so often tailored to the particular skill sets that he has at his disposal, like a Humvin Zarya. Back in the Goats meta, we saw Doomfist and Sombra played in Goats because you had Sparkle was a fantastic Doomfist and you had a really good Sombra in Doha as well. And I feel like trying to move into this more Dallas Fuel-esque composition could be somewhat poorly considered for a lot of teams who are struggling to find a really powerful identity. And I personally thought that Toronto Defiant were doing great with Muse on Winston and Finale on Tracer.
Well, they know something we don't, and it means maybe giving some time to the bench players of Hotba, maybe giving Muse some time off, as a lot of teams have been also moving away from the Genji. And Victoria gets to shine on the Widowmaker again, kind of has been the Widowmaker specialist for Uprising. So you have a TP approach from Toronto, just getting everyone set up on the top right, and also dropping an immediate bubble just in case there's any snipes, which, speaking of snipes, apparently Twilight is doing his impression of Victoria or Hisu, as now the Cardinal gets a free push.
Subbed in and get out. That's an unindiff straight away from Twilight. Welcome to the match, MCD, they may say. As there's going to be an exchange of poke between the Winstons, and it seems like Boss and Uprising are going to be fairly happy to cede away this territory while MCD returns to the fray. No point in taking that fight without your honor, as you'll be at a supreme disadvantage in terms of their playmaking ability and raw healing.
Now Toronto will get pushed up until the market side. Now Boston hoping to hold this choke. Faith on the Brigida, helping against the dive, especially warding away Aldo. And even just providing just a small minuscule shield to block some of the shots from Victoria, but Hisu finds a gap in Valentine's forehead. Now Dorado with these tiny picks that they're getting is developing into inches where Boston were waiting for an aggressive dive. Now Anna's being traded, Aldo is in the back line, and Hotba and friends making a ton of space, and Hisu gets the AFK on cart.
And it's interesting that Aldo has kind of transitioned into being a common Genji player for Toronto Defiant. As I remember, in all those brief tenure before their successive contenders on the London Spitfire, when they were a very confusing and kind of like a gamble pickup, where we assumed that Aldo had just been like scouted in tryouts for London in Season 3, Aldo mostly played Widow as far as I can remember. Evidently in contenders, the hero pool has been expanded, but I do wonder if Finale would have also been a good choice to play the Genji as well.
I'm just not sure if Boston have killed much yet, but we'll see what happens in this next fight. See that Boston are on the high ground. Aldo's going to take a detour. Has spotted someone on his journey. Actually, two of them. Victoria and Valentine on the off angle. Valentine creeping up into the back line, throws the pulse and hits Jorong. He should be pretty good at dodging those, and Hisu has been nanoed. I've really seen it all in this match. It's Alice sleeping, giving Toronto a chance to escape. They're down 2, so this is not really a moment for them to fight.
And Victoria needs a little bit of topping off, and after that we'll be good to go. Hotba does have a Primal Rage here, which is very useful for knocking multiple people off the high ground, but you can see that MCD kind of has their back to the wall, makes it a little bit harder to get that knockoff. It's essentially counter-diving Hotba here, and forces them away when that shield is used. This is going to mean Hotba has to wait a little bit longer to get a better dive, unless Victoria gets no healing here. Where are the healers? Guys?
On the high ground, just vibing. Actually, I don't even know why Victoria is on the low ground and so accessible like that. So I would say it's more of a Victoria problem, but hey, now Hotba and friends get to get free push. They keep soft diving the high ground. It's working out. Intel thinks it's time to fight. Victoria will be back shortly, I guess. The rally starts from FaZe. They're going to take the 4-on-5. MCD misses the sleep. A well-timed bubble from Hotba blocks that. Toronto not successful at getting high ground control, but now it's all just about the cart. It doesn't seem Boston are contesting that too much. Itzel will drop. Valentine is there to assist. They're hoping to kill Twilight, but they lack focus entirely. So Toronto are just going to continue on forward.
All right, out comes the play, chasing down Faith here. That's going to be a huge anti, and it means that Faith's able to sustain themselves and MCD through any 1,000-folded steel or samurai moves. Be it ninja, samurai, or potentially even something else. MCD misses the sleep, and now Boston Uprising still are in command here. And Itzel actually did a great job of the initial engagement of that fight of dodging a sleep dart from Twilight by jumping out of their bubble at just the correct moment. Hisu noted, Victoria just a touch scared, but that's okay. Playing to live can be a little bit more interesting and more productive when you're on the defense lemon. But Boston Uprising here, they are utilizing the high ground well, and it's kind of exactly what Toronto did on Eichenwald's second, where the high ground was their muse.
Enemy over here!
Oh, the blink, the pulse! Aw, don't tease me like that. Come on, dunk him with it. Or your elbow. You're taking a long time to kill Hisu. It's okay though, Valentine, or Itzel was doing work on the supports too, so Boston in 5v3. Toronto are still hanging around inside this church courthouse thing, so Hotba thinks it's still time to go forward, at least not disengage yet. And he could be chased down by Valentine, who still has the pulse. Charong is back in the picture. Twilight might be around to give him a nano, and Toronto bait Boston enough, but Boston are really just surrounding them and trapping them.
Hisu now with the infra sight, sees everything coming their way. Charong, get away from that mega health pack, says Itzel, but still return to your co-healer. That is a very cheeky sleep, just on the toes of Itzel as they turn the corner. No tank for Boston for a little bit.
Primal still going on. Now Hotba sees the supports stuck in the building. Itzel not getting any of that love, as Boston were too scared to show their faces, and now Hotba gets nanoed and will finish off the supports. And Toronto even capped during all of this, so they'll get a lot of extra time. 2.5 minutes for point C.
Oh, MCD just had a very sad round of Anna right there. Then Biotic Grenade got blocked by a palm tree. So it didn't hit anyone near the car. And then missing the sleep onto Hotba with the jump. just getting outplayed by the Winston. Just a little bit of good reading here from Hopper into the playstyle of MCD, and it feels like Hopper's got a very good idea right now of how MCD likes to use the sleep darts in terms of a continuum against the Winston when they are positioning and posturing to use that ability, and Hopper is countering it quite effectively, be it by jump or by bubble.
And Toronto really want control of this high ground. I mean, it's not a great position for Toronto to play Hiso on the bottom left in terms of lines of sight, but Toronto are failing at getting onto that high ground, losing their supports immediately. And Victoria has just the better position. It just has more options, more space to operate. So yeah, Hisu's not even going to bother. Good swap off the Widow.
Oh, it's a bit of a bait though.
Oh,
Back
come
onto
on,
the Widow?
man. Please, please.
Okay, Hisu's having a little bit of an argument with the main caller, I imagine. Guys, I promise I'll swap if I don't get a pick.
And Nitzal got slept and woken up, and he has Bravo and he has Nano, and Dorado are using the nade on themselves at full health. The rally from Churong has already been used. Nitzal causing a ton of chaos, more than I've seen in the series, as Aldo is getting dash reset after dash reset using the blade, and Toronto get to see the light at the end of the tunnel. 50 seconds remaining, and point C in their sight.
Lovely smooth glide action on the dash right there from Aldo, showing off the Genji mechanics and telling me, you know what, we don't want Finale in for Genji, I'll do just fine, thank you. Toronto Defiant though, now they're only going to have a Nano to try and finish this as we enter 30 seconds remaining and potentially the final fight location-wise. The Nano's given over to Hopper.
He's in the back, and MCD misses the sleep. That's going to be critical. Hopper decides to turn around and deal with the Winston instead of kill supports. Just keep trapping Boston 4 meters away from Toronto and the cap. Boston pulls his throne. Valentine recalls. It's a whiff. Toronto still holding the space, but someone is still contesting. Valentine has been removed. And it's actually Itzel who's sleeping on the cart, who's getting free contests and being ignored. And now that the rest of Itzel's teammates have been killed, it will be Toronto finishing this one off. Valentine will get one last touch. At this point, no extra seconds being shaven off. It is an overtime cap for the Toronto Defiant.
Oh, Faith dying just 1% shy of the rally there. Lemon, that could have been a huge difference maker for Toronto, for the Boston Uprising. And that can be a little bit of a tilter, especially for a player who, when it comes to stats, isn't the most remarkable on main supports, but is actually very good at not dying much and being able to save their ultimates for the crucial moments when they are most required. And it's in this case that Faith was countered in their more safe playstyle, where they always are the clutch hero, and Boston Uprising were unable to take anything away from Toronto Defiant there. Well, apart from their time bank, of course. 3 points and 0 seconds remaining. Boston Uprising now have to try and make their own attack work, which on Eichenwald was lackluster.
I'm just feeling like Boston Uprising, their players are very peaceful people. I don't even think I saw really a fight at point A. It was mostly like Hisu and Twilight getting 1 or 2 picks, and then Boston not wanting, Boston not really wanting to fight 4v5, so they just kind of stand around there. So point A was kind of a sweep for Toronto, and then point B, Boston had these soft resets, and Toronto got so much free push that it just felt like Boston just maybe are not used to Itzel in the lineup. I wonder what the calling setup is, but obviously this is a very different look having Itzel in over anyone else. So you can tell that Boston are still getting used to the structure.
Attackers incoming.
I think both of these teams still have a little bit of structure that needs to be sort of perfected, you know? Just getting used to how Overwatch 2 works. And occasionally with a non-main tank player playing the main tank, of course, Toronto Defiant, they were likely scrimming mostly with Muse on the Winston, but have decided for some reason that Hopper is the play right here. This would lead me to believe that, like, Muse is sick or something. As far as I know, like, there's a chance that Finale is sick, so all of us here at the Overwatch League, if that's the case, do hope they get better soon.
We gotta scout through social media. I gotta scrub through some Twitter, see who's sick.
Where's the research team?
But obviously, like,
I need an antibody check.
But teams want to incorporate their bench, right? You're not paying these people to warm up some seats. You gotta get some wins too. What a nade though from MCD. These supports are toast. Toronto and Twilight dead, and Boston taking some way better initiative than the previous round.
And that was a fantastic confident outplay there from MCD. Sure, they get traded out for it, but in the end, it doesn't matter, Lemon. Because Faith can still keep everyone topped up, and you know that MCD, once they get back, because you have basically unlimited range of healing on Ana, providing you have the sight lines, it doesn't matter if you get picked off and can play from far back. In fact, in many cases, it may well serve you better to be able to play from as far back as you can. Heading into the final fight of point A here, Hopper is going to make themselves known on the car and get antied.
Twilight and Trong being the first one to show up near the card is not my favorite. Hopper. I mean, they didn't even, Chorong and Twilight didn't even get dove on, and I felt like Valentine was creeping up with a pulse bomb. Boston again hesitating on these approaches. Hoppa gets one pick, and Boston are gone.
Boston just had a really weird crisis of comms. Like, they got an anti onto Hopper who'd already used their leap in and had used their shield. And that shield was blocking heals off from Itzal, but no one was damaging Hopper, and Itzal decided not to lead through the shield to get any heals.
Look at him, leave him with a kiss on the head. Bye, Chorong. Usually you want to have your shield up, Pulse catches the shield, you can drop the Pulse, and usually Brigida's a pretty good deterrent to the Tracer, but Chorong's getting hit left and right with that thing. But minute 40, and Boston are hanging around a fight they shouldn't be in. Itzal is like, oh, guys, I think this is winnable, and he's dead.
Guys, I'm diving.
Guys, I'm diving, and yeah, he's dying.
Oh, Boston Uprising. This has been a little bit messy. You're exactly right, and I think that from such a clean and clinical first fight, MCD might be looking for more of these antis to try and make the plays, but the question is, can you take these peaks of the antis safely up against Hisu, especially when Hisu is going to be having access to this infra site, which is, they're simply waiting for Victoria to pop theirs, I imagine, as Hisu is kind of playing from a singular position at the moment, but it doesn't matter. Victoria still peaks it, and Hisu's still better.
Hee. Now Toronto. I don't want to get, I was gonna do a certain impression, but I ain't trying to knock the stream offline. Boston
Ain't trying to catch us a lawsuit.
Boston, playing Overwatch 1. 4v5s are definitely more possible than, a 6v5 from Overwatch 1. It feels like Boston, every time they lose somebody, they just kind of stand around. I ain't paid hourly. But Victoria now has it for sight. 32 seconds left. Hoping to get dipped by Hisu, or hoping to dip Hisu. Gurley also has it for sight. Although is now backing away, has the blade available. Boston now starting their dive, going towards the Widow. Hisu is knocking, or Itzal is knocking Hisu into planets unseen before. Enough to claim a kill. The rally from Faith keeps the truck rolling, and Boston seconds away from capping A.
How did Twilight go there to that primal range as well? Did he go, oh, have a look at that. I think Hisu's having some fun. I want to get me a bit of this. Just rolls in and goes where Hisu's being pummeled into the wall. An interesting choice from Toronto Defiant, but Boston Uprising going to be counting their lucky star that there's a completion here. And it all started off the back of one of those grenades we were looking for. MCD managing to grab this. So how did this happen? Oh, no nano blade allowed. Huge sleep from MCD. And he also opened that by sending Aldo reeling with a well-placed grenade onto the feet of the Genji from the archway.
Valentine and Victoria on the right side, meeting Aldo in the dark alley as Hotba starts his counter dive. Already stuffing the choke with a bubble, cutting off heals, maybe lines of sight from MCD. Valentine pulses, it sticks, Twilight is gone, but Toronto makes up for the lack of healing with the rally and drops down towards the rest of the team. Meanwhile, Valentine is gonna go after Hisu, but Hoppa has cleared away, or at least it's looking like they've cleared around the cart. Boston only have Itzal and Faith on the card as Victoria rounds out the right side. And it's both teams really not being able to make a decisive call on whether to fight or not. It just seems so hesitant from both sides.
Welcome to Overwatch League while you wait deathmatch. Just like in your comm queues. All over the place at the moment, but Valentine is demanding a huge amount of attention. This is going to give a lot of free space over to a Boston Uprising, and now Itzal has joined them. So this is now some cemented space for Boston to work with, and it means that maybe Victoria can try and find a very cheeky angle. Hopper camping it for now, just drops down on MCD. He's stuck quite easily.
We have two supports alone by themselves in the tank. They need an adult. Hopper is awake. He has Primal. Valentine has given his attention. But where is the rest of Boston?
It's just gatekeeping right now.
Well, We've got the girl boss. Oh, he gets flailed down. All right, Primal's back up. You've tossed Toronto off the high ground. Boston, meanwhile, are on the card. Toronto, the defense are behind him. As Hoppa comes back to contest, still has the Primal active. No other ults from the defense. A pulse hits the bank door. And Boston have trapped a few members of the defense here. 4 meters to go for Boston. They've lost MCD. Faith is close to rally. He's getting pressured. It's not going to be the case for Boston to get any more healing up until this point. There's only about 3 of them alive, unless Victoria can go big here with the infrasight. He's getting some shots in, but no kills.
All right, little healing here as well. It's only Valentine who remains, and Victoria's managed to get up top, but Hopper's right on top of them instantly, Lemon. All those stars are Blaze to play with, but at this point it's simply a victory dance of his people. Toronto Defiant have claimed themselves yet another, proving that on the defense they are superior, and proving that when Boston Uprising attack, they do it one at a time.
Yeah, I gotta agree. The one at a time approach is there.
The mortgage style of attack, Lemon. We pay it in installments.
I'd have to ask our stats guys about the Widow 1v1. It felt like Hisu was making a much larger impact, and Boston already don't like 4v5 fights, and it felt like most of that time with Victoria not able to get any of the picks Boston needed. So Toronto will take a map. After this break, we'll find out what's next.
you, Toronto. Very cool. And now it's time for a homecoming for Toronto Lemon. We're heading over to New Queen Street. And I think that there's also a bit of a homecoming back to some success that was enjoyed in early Overwatch League by Hopper, who's having himself a pretty good game. I had some choice words at the beginning. Okay, I apologize. After what happened against Dallas, I was very trepidatious about the continuance of the Zarya Reaper after they were thoroughly outclassed by Edison and Hanbin in that. However, Hopper and their ability to play the Winston as well as a flex is proving himself to be a very valuable tank here in Overwatch 2. Particularly how Hopper is enough of a veteran to be starting to download the tendencies of MCD in order to avoid incoming sleep darts and biotic grenades.
Yeah, it's cool to see Hoppa have the flexibility of not just playing Zarya, but also on the Winston. But now he has a different opponent on the tank role, the other side of the Boston Uprising, who have subbed out Itzal and brought Punk back in. Now, Boston's only map was with Punk in, and also Crimzo, by the way, is back. So obviously things did not look cohesive for Boston when it came to Dorado. And to be fair, Itzal has only played one map, and with 3 tanks, 3 DPS, 3 supports, I just wonder what the scrims are looking like for Boston. How much playtime is everyone getting? Because even you and I were kind of noticing that Boston just didn't look like they were talking to each other. Now we can't hear that, but we can see it when you have Itzal diving in, Valentine is gone, the supports are trapped in places they shouldn't be, and it just didn't look cohesive. But now that Punk and Crimzo are back, maybe this will be Boston's best look yet.
I'm sure some bastion of investigation in the Overwatch community is going to watch back these VODs and try and read the mouth movements, do the lip sync to see what comms are being done by the players we have in our player cams in the bottom left-hand corner, for those of you who hadn't noticed them yet. We're heading over now to New Queen Street. As we said, it's kind of hometown territory for the Toronto Defiant, but will they be taking a victory lap through their own ends, or will it be a humiliation in front of a crowd?
Well, Toronto have been on New Queen Street twice on broadcast. They beat Paris and Houston on this very map. And, a third time as well, they've lost to Washington. Boston, on the other hand, have not been seen on New Queen Street, and I'm not going to reach as far as talking about what they do on Coliseo. It's just 2 very different maps, same game mode though, so we'll see if Toronto, that experience of playing this map now 3 times, will help them bolster a series win, as they are on series point 2-1.
I think that Twilight has definitely been able to flourish from being the consistent support in as well. Boston Uprising, I'm not entirely sure why they swapped Crimzo and MCD, like to both play only Ana. So at some point I'll probably have to have an interview about that, have a quick chat and wonder, like you said before, Lemon, you don't want your bench to be doing nothing all year. But at the same time, you diversify your roster to allow for specialization, right? And both Crimson and MCD played only Ana in those matches. Is it a play style difference? Is MCD better at, like, sleeping Winstons or something? Boston Uprising roll out once again with Punk on the Zai here, and Valentine not on the Reaper, but on the Genji.
I think the MCD thing is about, he sometimes plays Zen when there is a Widowmaker at play, so sometimes, but that's usually more of a Circuit Royale thing. But for now, Crimzo's back in the lineup, the Zarya setup continues, but with no Reaper, and Valentine, well, he hits the bad end of that bullet. Now the TP going forward, the 5-on-3. If you're Toronto, you're taking as many staggers as you can. And just going back to the MCD Itzal conversation, they played together before when Itzal played the one map. So maybe you're sticking your bench players together, hoping they develop synergy, and maybe this is just a long-term plan.
And it feels like in push at the moment, the first fight win is even more important than it was on control, where just getting control of Timmy and starting to get some forward progress on the barricade is so important. However, I don't have the stats of that one, so the source is I made it up.
The source, I saw it in a dream, but Victoria's found all the range. I think it's going to be a huge edge for Toronto to have that flexibility. And turns out only 34 meters are accumulated for Toronto, but Boston now back on the robot, getting some space of their own. It's the statue fight between Victoria and Hisu, who Hisu immediately disengages to join Aldo. And now Toronto group back up on the card. Mainly the ultimate I'm looking for is the tactical visor, and also Hotbo's 100 energy. He could be real aggressive if he wants. Punk is also half HP, saving his bubbles to bait in Hotba, who is just layering down damage. Finally, Aldo joins the fight. He gets bubbled, he gets a kill. The nano from Twilight to Aldo with love. XOXO, and the rest of Boston fall.
And the iteration is good here, Lemon. Finally, we're seeing Toronto Defiant playing the Reaper Zarya with actually moving forward with the Reaper. We won't just send the Reaper in by himself, we'll give him Banana, we'll give him the speed boost, as well as the bubbles, and Hopper will be there as well to give over some additional hit scan damage with the beam, chunk everybody down, make sure that Orvo is quickly losing enemies, so that less people are firing at him when he's in his most exposed position. Timmy stopped just before the checkpoint here, and it seems like he's actually looking for a play from the back maybe, or potentially a counter-attack.
If he can go up the stairs and go on a flank, Hisu is the tactical visor. Love to see what he's up to. And Boston are going to counter with their own tactical visor. Faith falls. Hisu with a double kill. Victoria storms the roads and gets the same double kill. But at the end of the day, you're left with a 3-on-2 for the Toronto Defiant, who just barely inch out a fight win.
That's why, it's like an unnamed animal fighting game. Just like, go Chirong, I choose you. I will heal you through. Go forth and kill Victoria. And that's going to be the checkpoint here for Toronto Defiant. They are in a great place to win this series now, Lemon. Boston Uprising are up against the wall and will need to win multiple fights in continuance in order to even equal this distance. And remember, once you get that checkpoint, Timmy has a little bit of an itch and a scratch. He needs to wait for a moment. So Toronto Defiant decide to back off here and play for a fight in the middle area rather than be caught down on low ground around a Timmy who's not going anywhere.
This Punk is just checking where everyone's hiding with these right clicks, get some good energy going. Valentine needs some backup. The sound barrier happens, the Death Blossom follows, and Toronto just die in the wings, and 57 meters for Toronto still exists, but Boston hoping to close the gap in the score, because this has been a heavy Toronto lead for a while.
Talks about how Boston need to win multiple fights in a row here, Lemon, and they're actually well set up to do that. Only 2 ultimates invested there means that there's still a Nano Reaper alongside a Death Blossom that's available for the side of a Boston Uprising, and maybe Boston Uprising even give Punk for Nano here if he's managed to keep a bunch of energy available between fights, because that 100 energy Zarya doing 50% more damage is a lot of damage, Lemon.
Okay, there's the bubble to Valentine. Punk hoping Toronto approach to bait them into the grab, but you see that Valentine might have even TP top right. You see him wraithing back. That's because Twilight's up in the window, so the grab is going to be thrown, and Hopper, yeah, he can't be healed. Twilight doing everything he can at a safe distance, except keep his team alive. So Toronto will lose this fight, and Boston will take a lead.
They are going to have to suffer the Timmy scratch now. Man deserves to have a good itch after pushing towards the barricade, but it seems like they've managed to ward away the Toronto Defiant for long enough that Timmy's going to get back to it. And now there's the lead for Boston Uprising. Victoria from the back with the flanking visor. That forces out a sound barrier, Lemon.
Now Toronto want to engage with the advantage they have from that sound barrier, and Hisu unleashes the tactical visor, and Boston are just gone. And Toronto were really hoping to keep up the momentum on this. Valentine will reset too. Toronto back on the car. Only it was Boston that was hoping to keep up the momentum. Now 63 meters for them. Toronto will have to win one more fight to hope to take the lead back.
Punk already spotted by Hisu though. Gonna throw out some warning shots and hopefully bait out a couple of barriers for the Toronto Defiant fans. Hopper's instantly naded here and actually tries to make place of a high ground instead of push the bot itself. Remember that for both teams, the next fight is crucial as it will allow for that last bit of push on the barricade when both of them are so closely aligned, Lemon, that this is anybody's game with only 2 minutes remaining.
Papa wishes he got more love and more energy because he could be hitting way differently with the grab, but it's still got 2 or 3 people of Boston inside of it. And Aldo gets to hunt down anyone from Boston escaping. So Toronto in good position. Now that they've won this fight, like I said, they'll be able to take a lead. And Boston only have 2 minutes to try and turn this around.
Yeah, we probably get the lead here and then just leave. Like, they are down in members, but it was all about prioritizing the objective here. And this is one of the ways that Push really differs from other game modes in that you sometimes just play the minimum possible bit of objective advantage and then play for a better position for the forthcoming fight. A minute and a half remaining now, and Nano Blossom on the cards for all though, but Valentine's faster.
Faster thanks to Faith. Yeah, that was a great speed. And actually some cohesion from Boston, already looking much better than they did on Dorado, with Punk making calls on the Zarya and Crimso assisting and just enabling Valentine. So Now the bot is approaching the barricade, and Boston will have to win one more fight in order to take the lead. Toronto just barely holding on to it. Hisu could be on a flank. Twilight, I wonder if he's by his side. He is, so a Nano Visor will be available in a few seconds. Boston could get surrounded here. It's almost like playing the bot is a disadvantage, because look at the flanks that Toronto are taking. Boston are getting surrounded. Valentine starts to pressure Hisu, and Hisu receives the Nano. He's visoring at the same time. Victoria has a sound barrier and can't find the target. He's more busy using the visors to rob the robot.
Taking a look at these robots, Lemon, taking a look at these robots. Almost there when it comes to matching the distance, but Charong is on that like a car bonnet. And it means that Hopper now is going to be chasing away the Boston Uprising. Only 20 seconds remain. The next fight needs to be so well considered. And there's Puck with a grab, getting 3 people inside and 3 kills off the back potentially if Charong can be finished.
And the bot for Toronto is quite far from the barricade. And we're just kind of vibing. 67 meters.
Vibe, Lemon.
67 meters. Toronto had the lead. They don't have to go anywhere else. Toronto will take the series 3-1.
It was a little bit worrisome at the beginning, Lemon, when we started off on control and we saw some fairly egregious gameplay. But Toronto Defiant, they went back to KDG. They had a powwow. They had a group huddle. Had a Toronto Defiant fighting, and after that things seemed to clear up a little bit. They were using the high grounds very well, and we were seeing some good fundamentals from this team, even if there are still overarching questions that need to be answered about what's going on in the roster. If you're going to be playing the Winston, where's Muse? If you're going to be playing the Tracer, where's Finale? But at the moment, Hopper and Although are filling those roles admirably, and Hopper showing himself to actually be quite versatile, as well as Although, who can continuously pick up the Genji and not be a liability.
And I think most people expected the Toronto scoreline, or at least the Toronto win from this case. And this was an important one. They were 2-2. They'll climb to 3-2. And they'll be in a position, I believe, in the top 8. Remember, only top 8 go to the kickoff clash. While as Boston dive deeper and lower in the standings. They were 10th, probably going to get down lower. But there's one player that didn't eat so much. One player that's looking better and better every day we see him. Your player of the match is Hotba.
We're talking about that big monkey man who is also, of course, playing Vizaya after a disastrous result yesterday against the Dallas Fuel. But Toronto Defiant kept their faith in old reliable Hotba, and they were rewarded for doing so. Hotba again and again proving themselves to be bloody brutal when it comes to Vizaya. Some excellent tracking, and I think that the Winston's probably what surprised me the most in terms of the efficacy. The Primal Rages were really good, but what impressed me most was Hopper's ability to download a profile on an Ana and then be able to circumnavigate the sleep incredibly well. The average energy of 49%, bloody hell.
Yeah, with Boston figuring out their structure, Hotba is looking just that much more consistent. So we will be throwing to the break to hear from Watchpoint. Will Reinforce keep his hair? Will Custa still be smiling? Will Zoe have to deal with all of it? I'm excited to hear more from Watchpoint. We'll see you after the break.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Upper Deck, the official trading card of the Overwatch League. And by TeamSpeak, the official voice supplier of the Overwatch League.
Welcome everybody. I am here joined now by Hapa from Toronto Defiant. Hi Hapa. Congratulations on the win. Please introduce yourself to everybody. Hapa 선수 안녕하세요. 인터뷰 응해주셔서 너무 감사드리고 인사 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다. And if you want to do it in English, 영어로 하고 싶으면은 you could do it in English. 영어로 하셔도 됩니다.
Hello, I'm Hapa. I'm tank player for Toronto.
Yeah, Hapa. See, I think all the Korean players are getting so much better at English. 다들 이제 이번 오버워치 리그도 이제 몇 년이 지나고 나니까 많은 선수들이 영어를 좀 더 잘하시는 것 같습니다. Alright, let's just jump right into my question. So today, I feel like Toronto Defiance had a dominant showing against the Boston Uprising, but first map, you guys lost to the Boston Uprising. What sort of happened in the first control map for the Toronto Defiance? 자, 오늘 경기 당연히 보스턴을 상대로 승리를 거두셨지만은 첫 번째 맵은 좀 이렇게 좋지 않은 모습을 조금은 살짝은 보여줬던 것 같아요. 첫 번째 맵의 어떻게 해서 좀 지게 되셨나요?
우선 첫 번째 맵에서 제가 긴장을 한 것보다 좀 개인적인 그 압박감 같은 게 있어가지고 제가 좀 못해가지고 진 것 같아요.
All right. So I think the main reason why we dropped map number 1 wasn't because I was nervous or anything. I think I just had felt this pressure, and I think that pressure really got to me, and my performance suffered because of the pressure, and I think that's why we unfortunately lost the map. But like I said, you did drop map 1, but you guys did win the match, and I think that's what matters. And I want to go into my second question by asking you, today we saw you, of course, on Zarya, but on Winston as well. I think that Winston play, you Hapa, was very impressive. But you guys also have another great tank player named Muse. So how does that tank subbing strat happen for the Toronto Defiant? 두 번째 질문은 당연히 우리 또 하파 선수가 또 너무나 좋은 탱커는 뭐 다들 아시고 거기다 또 지금 토론토 팀에 또 뮤즈라는 굉장한 선수가 죄송합니다. 있기 때문에 이 그 토론토 팀에 있는 두 탱커진 이 교체가 어떻게 이루어지나요?
우선 뮤즈 선수가 나오면 대표적으로 메인 탱을 필두로 한 좀 템포를 빠르게 잡는 3템포 조합 그런 거를 좀 많이 하는 것 같고요. 제가 나오면 서탱을 필두로 대표적으로 조금 느리게 한다고 표현할 수도 있는데 좀 서탱에 어울러진 그런 탱커로 좀 역할이 나뉘어져 있는 것 같아요. 저희 토론토는.
Alright, so I think for the main subbing strategy for our team, Toronto Defiant, we could divide into two things. If Muse comes out, it's more main tank focus heavy, and also not only that, we use compositions that are more high tempo, fast paced. Whereas if I'm playing for, if I'm on the tank role for the team, it's more flex tank roles, a little bit more slower. So that's how we do the subbing strategy for our team. Alright, and finally. Also, your next match actually is going to be against the New York Excelsior. New York, I got it. New York Excelsior. What are your expectations of your next match? 자, 다음 경기 이제 오늘 또 승리 거두시고 다음 경기 뉴욕 엑셀시어 팀과의 경기가 있는데요. 그 경기 어떻게 좀 흘러갈 것 같나요?
우선 최근에 뉴욕 경기를 봤을 때 별로 잘한다고는 생각 안 하지만 당연히 저희 최근 경기를 보고 상대도 저희를 잘한다고 생각 안 할 수도 있다고 생각하거든요. 근데 제 생각에는 절대 안 질 것 같습니다.
Alright, so judging by how they were playing from their previous match, I wasn't really impressed. I didn't think they were at New York Excelsior was that good. But there is a chance that they might look at our match and they might think the same thing, that we're not really good as well. But my bottom line is, I do want to point out that I do not think we are going to lose against the New York Excelsior. Love your answer, Hapa. Thank you so much and hope to talk to you soon. Thank you. 자, 하파 선수 이걸로 인터뷰 마치겠고요. 오늘 인터뷰 해주셔서 너무 감사하고 다음에 또 좋은 인터뷰 부탁드리도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Bye.
I don't know how you always get them to wave. That's just so adorable. And also, one time, I want to hear a player going like, "Oh, I'm absolutely convinced we're going to lose."
maybe.
Of course, you're always confident. You have to be confident.
I kind of
want to hear it. Just
that was so
because.
funny. Hoppa was like, yeah, no, I watched them. Oh, they didn't look that good. But they might think the same way for us too.
Love the honesty right there. Well, that was a match, right?
Yeah.
Overwatch was played most of the time during that match.
100% of the time, actually.
Actually, yes. No, and Reinforce, I know you have so many thoughts on this particular one.
It was actually quite interesting because, I mean, the Toronto Defiant, they've sort of shifted now their focus over to a Zarya composition, and I'd love to get Costa's thoughts as well. But it's interesting now that we've seen several teams in the league swap over from their pretty competent Winston strategies towards favoring this Zarya. Of course, it's something that Dallas Fuel kick-started, of course, when they brought it out against the LA Gladiators, and even before then as well. But we're seeing some of these teams swap over to the Zarya, perhaps long-term, because they think it's a better bet the longer we go on here in the kickoff clash. And Hotba is, of course, a competent Zarya player. We've seen him in the league now for so long, right? And it's a bit of a big shift when it comes to what matters in the game as well. So whereas before the Toronto Defiant, they were about controlling space with Muse, Winston, placing these Winston bubbles to make space for your team. Now it's about resource management. It's about preserving these Zarya bubbles and getting as much value out as possible. It's about getting out the Reaper, his abilities, his Wraith form, his teleport, and then capitalizing on the back of that. So we're seeing a lot of these teams swap over to these strategies. I mean, we even Punk on the Zarya, so I'd love to hear what Costa has to think as well. Why some of these teams are moving over to the Zarya, and perhaps how that changes how we view some of these teams like the Toronto Defiant and their chances to actually win the kickoff clash.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see some there must be something going on in scrims in which the Zarya is becoming very oppressive and it's becoming difficult to play the Winston. I was definitely surprised to see Hotba come in and play full time in this match over Muse. Muse has been impressing me a lot this season on that Winston, and it actually looked like the best look for the Toronto Defiant, especially with Finale on that Tracer. They were one of the first few teams to really embrace playing that Tracer. I don't have a problem if they want to play Hotba, although, and they want to like lean into that style and find their own way of playing the game where like Hotba can play that Zarya, and then maybe Hotba can, you know, also play a little bit of that Winston. It doesn't look that bad. I just want to see some consistency from the Toronto Defiant. Come up with a play style, make it work for you, because they have talented roster, and if they play like they did in that first map against Boston Uprising today, I'm very worried about them, because that was that night market was ugly. I'm just gonna say it. That was just awful on so many different levels, and like that's against the Boston Uprising, which is a team that doesn't look too hot themselves.